I can still picture the day it all changed 10 years ago this spring. It was one of those warm afternoons where the sun filtered through the kitchen blinds, casting stripes on the linoleum floor, and the smell of fresh coffee hung in the air. My son, Jacob, was 18, just graduated high school, his cap and gown tossed over the couch like a promise of the world ahead. We'd been planning his future, community college, maybe a trade like his dad, but that day, words flew between us like shards of glass. I said things I didn't mean, sharp ones about his choices, his friends, the path I thought he should take. He stormed out, the screen door slamming behind him, and that was the last time we spoke face to face for years. The silence started small, a few days of no calls, but it grew into something vast, an ocean between us. I'd pick up the phone 100 times, dialing his number only to hang up before it rang, my heart pounding with regret. Why couldn't I just say sorry? Pride, fear, the weight of being the mom who always knew best, it all tangled inside me. Jacob moved out, got a job across the state, built a life without me in it. Letters went unanswered. Holidays passed with empty chairs at the table. The house echoed with his absence, the room he'd left behind still holding his old baseball glove on the shelf, gathering dust. As the years ticked by, that unspoken apology became a stone in my chest, heavy with every birthday card I sent that came back unopened. I'd sit in my rocking chair by the window, watching the garden bloom and fade, wondering if he hated me, if I'd broken something irreparable. Mothers aren't supposed to fail like that, are we? But I did. And the waiting, those 10 long years, taught me more about love than any words I could have said sooner. It was a journey through guilt and longing until the day I finally found the courage to make it right. That wait wasn't just time. It was the slow unraveling of my heart, leading to a mending I never thought possible. Our family had always been the steady kind, the ones who gathered around the dinner table every night, passing plates of meatloaf and green beans, the clatter of forks mixing with stories from the day. I was 29 when Jacob came along, a chubby-cheeked boy with his father's curly hair and a smile that lit up our little rental house like sunshine. His dad, Mike, worked long hours at the factory, coming home with grease on his hands and jokes to make us laugh. We weren't fancy. Saturdays meant picnics in the park, Sundays church, and then baking cookies in the kitchen, the oven's warmth chasing away the chill of early mornings. Jacob was our world, toddling after Mike with toy tools, calling me mama in that sweet, lispy way that melted my heart. Those early years painted our life in simple joys, the kind that stick with you through the hard times. I'd watch from the porch as they played catch in the yard, the grass worn thin from their games, Mike's voice booming encouragement. "That's my boy," he'd yell, and Jacob would beam, running back with the ball clutched tight. At night, after tucking him in with stories about brave nights and far-off adventures, I'd sit with Mike on the couch, his arm around me, whispering how lucky we were. We built our routines around him. School drop-offs where I'd wave until his bus turned the corner. Parent-teacher nights where his teachers praised his curiosity. He was kind-hearted from the start, always sharing his toys, helping me fold laundry with those small hands. But life shifted when Jacob was 10 in ways that tested us all. Mike's factory laid him off, the economy dipping like a sudden rain, and the stress seeped into our home like damp through cracks. Arguments started small, bills piling on the counter, Mike's frustration at job hunts going nowhere, but they grew, voices raised over dinner while Jacob pushed peas around his plate, eyes wide. I took a part-time job at the local library to help, shelving books in the quiet aisles, the smell of paper and dust a small comfort. Mike found work eventually, but the strain lingered, and one evening, after a particularly tough day, he packed a bag. "I need space, Ellen, to figure this out." His words were quiet, but they shattered the air. Jacob cried that night, clinging to me in his bed, the room lit only by a nightlight's glow. Is Daddy coming back? He did, after a few months, but things were different. Conversations careful, touches tentative. We tried counseling, sitting in stiff chairs under fluorescent lights, the therapist's voice even as she urged us to communicate. Jacob bounced back with a kid's resilience, throwing himself into baseball, his uniform grass-stained from practices that stretched into evenings. I'd pack his snacks, cheer from the bleachers, the crowd's murmurs blending with the crack of bats. Mike coached the team, his pride in Jacob bridging our gaps. He's got heart, he'd say after games, ruffling our son's hair. Those moments rebuilt us, slowly, the kitchen filling again with laughter over pancakes on weekends, syrup sticky on the table. As Jacob grew into his teens, our family found a new rhythm, steadier but with undercurrents. High school brought friends, girls, the pull of independence that made him roll his eyes at my questions. "Mom, I got it," he'd say, grabbing his keys for a night out, the door clicking shut behind him. Mike and I had mended enough to stay together, but the old hurt simmered. Quiet disagreements about money, his late nights at work. I leaned on my library job, the calm of recommending books and escape, while Jacob excelled in school, dreaming of college but unsure. We talked dreams at the dinner table, the steam from roast chicken rising as I encouraged him. "Whatever you choose, we'll support you." He nodded, but I saw the pressure in his eyes, the weight of our expectations. Jacob's senior year was a whirlwind of proms and applications, the house buzzing with his excitement. Mike fixed up the old truck in the garage, tools clanging as Jacob helped, their bond strengthening over engine grease. I'd watch from the kitchen window, tea in hand, the garden outside blooming with tulips we'd planted together years before. He was our hope, the boy who'd weathered our storms without breaking. Graduation day came warm and bright, caps flying in the gym, his diploma held high as we hugged him tight. "Proud of you, son," Mike whispered, tears in his eyes. That night, we celebrated with cake from the bakery, candles flickering on the table, Jacob's laughter the sweetest sound. But beneath the joy, tensions brewed subtly, ones I didn't fully see then. Jacob had started hanging with a crowd from the rougher side of town, kids with fast cars and big plans that skipped the safe path. I'd worry, voice it gently over breakfast, the cereal bowls clinking. "Just be careful, Jake. Choose friends who lift you up." He'd shrug, "They're fun, Mom. Not everyone goes to college." Mike backed him, saying, "Let him find his way," but I pushed, my own fears from a hard upbringing coloring my words. I wanted more for him, stability, the college route that promised security. Our talks turned into lectures sometimes, my tone sharper than intended, the kitchen light harsh on his frustrated face. The context of our life was one of love wrapped in protectiveness, the kind that comes from scraping by and wanting better. Mike's steady job now provided, but memories of lean times made me cling tighter. Jacob, at 18, was testing wings, but I saw risks everywhere. The friends who skipped school, the job offers at the auto shop instead of classes. Holidays were still our anchor, Thanksgiving with turkey and stories, Christmas tree trimming to carols on the radio. He'd help hang ornaments, the ladder creaking, sharing dreams of traveling, seeing the world. "Maybe mechanic school first, then adventure," he'd say, and I'd nod, hiding my preference for the traditional path. Friends at the library shared similar worries about their kids, over coffee in the break room, the machine humming. "They grow up too fast," one said, and I'd agree, but inside I planned how to guide Jacob right. Mike and I discussed it in bed, the fan whirring softly. "He's smart, he'll be fine," he'd murmur. But I couldn't shake the need to steer him, my role as mom intertwined with fixer. Little did I know that steering would lead to the rift. Our relationships, mother-son, the core of it, were strong, built on years of bedtime stories and scraped knees bandaged with care. The house held those memories, his artwork on the fridge, the baseball trophies on the shelf,
Reflecting now, the setup was a family holding together through changes, love the glue despite cracks. Jacob wasn't rebellious, he was exploring, but my words often framed it as wrong turns. The night before the big argument, we'd sat in the living room, TV flickering, him talking about deferring college for work. I need to earn, Mom, help out. I agreed outwardly, but doubt lingered. That spring air carried promise, but also the storm brewing. Our context, working class roots, resilient bonds, set the stage for what came next, a moment that stretched silence across a decade. The morning after that slammed door, the house felt off kilter, like a picture hanging crooked on the wall. I woke to the coffee pot gurgling in the kitchen, the sunlight slanting through the window and warming the empty chair where Jacob usually sat. Mike was already at work, his lunch pail gone from the counter, leaving me alone with the echo of last night's words. I'd gone to bed replaying them, my voice rising as I said, "You're throwing away your future, Jacob. Those friends will drag you down." His reply had been fierce, eyes flashing. "You don't get it, Mom. I need to live my life, not yours." The argument had started over his plan to take the auto shop job instead of college, but it unearthed deeper frustrations, years of my nudges feeling like chains to him. I waited all day for him to come back, busying myself with laundry, the dryer humming as I folded his shirts, each one a reminder of the boy who'd outgrown them. By evening, the phone rang, his number on the screen, and my heart leapt. But it was just a wrong number, the voice on the other end confused before hanging up. Mike came home tired, grease under his nails, and I shared the worry over dinner, the table set for two, plates clinky softly. "He'll cool off, Ellen. Give him space." His words were kind, but they didn't ease the knot in my stomach. That night, rain started pattering against the roof, steady and insistent, matching the rhythm of my thoughts as I lay awake, the bed too big without Jacob's light snores from down the hall. The next day brought no sign of him. The driveway empty when I peered out the kitchen window, wiping my hands on a dish towel. I drove to the auto shop where he'd talked about applying. The bell jingling as I stepped inside, the smell of oil and rubber thick in the air. The owner, a gruff man with a clipboard, shook his head. "Haven't seen him, ma'am. Kid's got talent, but no show yet." Driving home, the wipers wishing rain from the windshield, doubt crept in. Had I pushed him so far he'd run? Back at the house, I left a voicemail, my voice calm but pleading. "Jacob, come home. We can talk. I love you." The words felt inadequate, hanging in the digital void, unanswered. Weeks turned into a pattern of waiting, each day layering on the last like dust on his shelf. I checked the mailbox twice a day, the metal slot cool under my fingers, hoping for a note in his scrawl. Friends at the library asked about him during shifts. The quiet stack's a place for whispers. "How's Jacob settling in?" one would say, pushing a cart of returns. I'd smile thinly, shelving mysteries next to romances. He's finding his way. But inside, the tensions built subtly. The guilt that I had been too controlling, memories of his teen frustrations bubbling up. Like the time he'd come home late from a party, smelling of smoke, and I'd lectured for an hour. "I'm trying to keep you safe," I'd said. "Safe is boring, Mom," he'd shot back, slamming his door. Mike and I talked more in those early months, sitting on the porch after dinner, the swing creaking under us as crickets chirped. "You were hard on him," he admitted one evening, the sky streaked with sunset pinks. "But he'll forgive." I nodded, but pride stung. Why should I apologize first? I was the parent, the one who sacrificed, worked extra hours for his uniforms and books. Still, I'd dial his number at night, the phone pressed to my ear in the dim living room, lamp casting soft shadows. It rang to voicemail each time, his greeting unchanged. "This is Jake, leave a message." I'd hang up without speaking, the silence after the beep heavier than words. As summer faded into fall, the leaves turning gold outside the window, I sent letters, simple ones folded into envelopes stamped with care. "Thinking of you, the garden's blooming. Come visit." Mailed to the address he'd given Mike once, a shared apartment with a buddy. They came back weeks later, returned to sender, the red ink like a wound. The house grew quieter, meals simpler, the kitchen table echoing when I ate alone, forks scraping plate. Memories haunted me then. Jacob's laughter at Christmas, unwrapping gifts by the tree's glow, or helping me bake pies, flour dusting his nose. Best mom ever, he'd say, hugging me sticky. Now those felt like ghosts, the subtle tension of regret twisting tighter. Holidays hit hardest that first year, Thanksgiving without his plate at the table, the turkey's aroma mixing with loneliness. Mike carved silently, passing me slices, the rain drumming on the roof like unshed tears. "Should we drive up?" I asked, voice small. He shook his head. He knows where we are. Christmas brought cards to his last known spot with photos of the tree, but no reply. New Year's Eve, I sat in the armchair, a cup of tea cooling in my hands, watching fireworks on TV, their bursts bright but distant. The weight was eroding me, pride warring with pain. Why couldn't I just swallow it and call, beg if needed? Fear held me back. What if he rejected me outright? The second year, tensions shifted inward, self-doubt blooming like weeds in the garden. I'd tend the flowers on weekends, kneeling in the dirt, the sun warm on my back, pulling at roots that clung stubbornly. Each tug mirrored my thoughts. Had I failed as a mom, pushing him away with my advice? A coworker shared a story over lunch in the break room, the microwave beeping as she said, "My boy stopped talking after a fight. Took months, but he came around." Hope flickered, but mine stretched longer. I tried email next, setting up an account just for him. Messages about everyday life like, "Fix the fence today, miss your help." Read or not, no response, the inbox empty like the chair beside me. Mike and I talked more in those early months, sitting on the porch after dinner, the swing creaking under us as crickets chirped. "You were hard on him," he admitted one evening, the sky streaked with sunset pinks. "But he'll forgive." I nodded, but pride stung. Why should I apologize first? I was the parent, the one who sacrificed, worked extra hours for his uniforms and books.
Apologize and move on. I'd bristle, stirring soup on the stove, steam rising hot. He should reach out too. It's not all me. But deep down, I knew the truth. The argument was mine. Words like disappointment that cut deep. Memories of his face, red with anger, replayed. "You never trust me." The conflict rose not in shouts now, but in this internal storm, guilt gnawing as I walked the neighborhood, leaves crunching underfoot, hoping to spot his truck. By year 3, the silence had woven into my routines, a companion I resented. Work at the library became a refuge, recommending books on family, their pages whispering advice I ignored. One rainy afternoon, sorting returns in the back room, water dripping from my coat, I overheard patrons talking reconciliation. "Time heals," one said. But time felt like a thief, stealing moments we'd never get back. His wedding, maybe. Grandkids I might miss. I sent a birthday gift that year, a watch like Mike's, wrapped carefully, note inside. "Thinking of you always." It returned, unopened, the box battered. Tears came then in the kitchen, door closed, the faucet running to mask sobs. Friends rallied gently, inviting me for coffee at the diner, the bell tinkling as we sat in a booth, mugs steaming. "Have you tried finding him online?" Sarah asked, stirring cream. I had. Social media searches yielding nothing, his profile private or gone. "He's out there living," I said, voice steady but eyes misty. The subtle tensions peaked in dreams, waking me with his voice. "Why, Mom?" I'd rise, make tea, the herbal scent calming as I sat at the table, moonlight through the window. Pride was the chain. Admitting wrong meant facing my flaws, the mom who'd controlled instead of guided.
Years 4 and 5 blurred, the garden a constant, seasons marking time. Spring plantings with empty hands where his used to be, fall harvests shared only with Mike. We'd talk less about it now, the topic sore like a bruise. One evening, after a storm, the air fresh with rain, Mike found an old photo album. "Look at this," he said, pages turning to Jacob's Little League days, smiles wide. Nostalgia hit, but so did pain. The boy gone, man unknown. I wrote another letter, longer, confessional. I was wrong to push. Forgive me. Mailed to a new address from a mutual friend, but silence again. The halfway mark, year 5, brought a small crack, a postcard from a cousin saying Jacob was doing well, working as a mechanic in a bigger town. Relief mixed with ache. He was safe, but still distant. I drove there once, heart pounding, parking outside a shop where sparks flew from welders. Through the window, I saw him, taller, beard shadowing his face, laughing with coworkers. I sat in the car, rain starting again, wipers on slow. Go in, I whispered to myself, but legs wouldn't move. Pride won, engine turning over as I left. The missed chance, a new layer of regret. Tensions with Mike grew too, our marriage straining under the unspoken. "This is eating you," he said one night, bed creaking as he turned. "Apologize, Ellen, for both our sakes." Arguments followed, voices low but sharp, the kitchen light buzzing overhead. "I can't if he won't answer," I'd retort, slamming a cabinet. But alone in the garden's silence, birdsong fading at dusk, I'd admit it. To the roses, to the wind. The conflict rose in waves, love pulling me to reach, fear pushing back. Holidays became rituals of absence, Easter eggs hidden for no one, 4th of July fireworks watched from the porch, empty spot beside me. By year 7, exhaustion set in, the weight a habit. Library shifts dragged, books blurring as thoughts wandered. A new friend there, widowed like me after Mike's heart scare, shared her regrets. "Don't wait till it's too late," she said over tea in the staff room, cups clinking. Inspired, I tried a private investigator friend of Mike's. The cost a pinch, but hope worth it. He found Jacob, married now, a daughter, stable job. Photos arrived, him holding a toddler, smile familiar. Tears soaked the prints, joy and sorrow, tangled. I wrote again, enclosing one. "Grandma wants to know her." Sent, but no reply, the envelope vanishing into the mail slot like a stone in water. The later years deepened the internal battle, pride cracking under guilt's weight. Dreams turned vivid, Jacob at the door, forgiving or walking away forever. I'd wake sweating, phone in hand dialing before dawn. Voicemail always. Mike softened, leaving space, his own apologies for not bridging sooner. "We're in this together," he'd say, hugging me in the hallway, coats hanging,
Unfolding, not in anger, but in this quiet revelation from a stranger who saw our broken thread. I stumbled inside, the door closing with a soft thud behind me, and dialed the number at the bottom of the page, my voice shaky as it rang. "Hello?" A woman's voice, warm but cautious. "Lisa. This is Ellen Harper, Jacob's mom." There was a pause, then relief in her tone. "I hoped you'd call. He's at work, but can I tell you more?" We talked for an hour, the kitchen clock ticking steadily as she shared their life. The small house with a yard for Mia, Jacob's job at a garage, his quiet ways. "He doesn't talk about the fight," she said, her words careful like stepping over fragile ice. "But after the illness, a bad flu that turned to pneumonia, he broke down one night. Said he'd wished he'd apologized but thought you wouldn't want him now."
Her confession hit like rain on dry earth, soaking through the defenses I'd built. Jacob? Regretting too? The betrayal I'd carried of my harsh words, my waiting, mirrored in him a hidden truth that we'd both been prisoners of pride. She kept a box of your letters, Lisa continued, voice softening. Reads them when he's down. The one about the garden after his dad died, that one makes him cry. Tears streamed down my face, hot and unchecked, as I gripped the phone, the cord twisting in my fingers. The garden. Our place of peace, where I'd written of missing our talks, the soil we'd turned together, he'd kept them, not thrown away. The key turned further, unlocking the door I'd bolted shut. That afternoon, with the rain steady now, drumming on the windows like an insistent heartbeat, I made the drive. The 2 hours felt eternal, the highway blurring through windshield wipers, my mind replaying Lisa's words, the envelope tucked in my purse like a talisman. What would I say? The apology I'd rehearsed 1,000 times in whispers to the empty house. I'm sorry, Jacob. I was scared, not wise. Now felt raw, urgent. His town unfolded, familiar yet strange, shops and parks I'd imagined from photos until I pulled up to their modest home, a swing set in the yard swaying in the breeze. Lisa met me at the door, kind eyes and a gentle hug, Mia peeking from behind her legs, curls like Jacob's as a boy. She's due home soon, she said, leading me to the kitchen, the smell of baking bread welcoming, steam from the oven wrapping around us like comfort. We sat at the table, mugs of tea between us, the liquid hot on my tongue as I shared bits of the past, the argument's sting, the years of silence. I waited too long, I confessed, voice low, confessional. I thought he'd come to me, but it was my words that built the wall. Lisa nodded, stirring her tea. He built one too, protects his heart fierce like you. Mia played nearby, blocks clacking softly, her laughter a bridge to what might have been. In that space, acceptance stirred, the hidden truth of mutual hurt, not one-sided blame. The sound of a truck in the drive made my heart stutter, the engine cutting off like a held breath. Footsteps on the porch, the door opening, and there he was, Jacob, taller, lines around his eyes from years and worries, toolbox in hand. Lisa? His voice trailed, face paling as recognition hit, the toolbox dropping with a thud. Time froze, the rain easing outside, sunlight breaking through clouds to slant across the floor. Mom, he whispered, the word a key itself, unlocking 10 years in one breath. I stood, legs unsteady, and crossed the room, arms open. Jacob! My boy! He hesitated, eyes searching mine, the air thick with unspoken storms. Then, like a dam breaking, he stepped into the hug, his frame solid but trembling, the scent of oil and rain on his shirt familiar. I thought you hated me, he murmured into my shoulder, voice muffled, after what I said. I pulled back, hands on his arms, tears mirroring his. Never, son. It was me. I was wrong, pushed too hard, waited too long to say sorry. The words tumbled out, sincere and heartfelt, the turning point crystallizing in his nod, the wall crumbling brick by brick. We sat then, the three of us, plus little Mia on his lap, the kitchen alive with halting talk. Lisa poured more tea, the pot clinking softly as Jacob shared the years, the move, the marriage, fatherhood's joys and fears. Dad's passing hit hard, he said, glancing at a photo on the fridge, Mike's smile frozen in time. Made me think of family, but pride kept me away. The revelation deepened. He'd written letters too, drafts in that box, unsent apologies for his anger, for storming out. He kept yours to remind me, he admitted, voice rough. The silence hurt, but it made me stronger, taught me to be better for Mia. Hours passed, the rain stopping to leave puddles gleaming outside as we peeled back layers, the argument's roots in my fears, his in youthful rebellion. You wanted college for security, he said, hand over mine. I get it now with bills and all. Forgiveness hovered, not forced but earned, in the quiet pauses, Mia's drawing spread on the table like peace offerings. I confessed the investigator, the photos I cherished, the nights praying for this. I was scared you'd reject me, I said, eyes on his. He squeezed my hand, never crossed my mind. I was the scared one. As evening fell, the sun setting in soft oranges through the window, we planned dinners, visits, no more waiting. The key event wasn't just the letter, it was this reunion, the hidden truths of shared regret surfacing like roots after rain. Jacob walked me to my car, the air fresh and cool, Mia waving from the door. "Come back soon, Mom. We're family." His hug lingered, strong and real, the silence shattered into hope. Driving home, the road winding under stars emerging, peace settled. The turning point, a bridge rebuilt, apology spoken after a decade's wait, leading to mending. But the depth lingered into the night. Back in my empty kitchen, the letter on the table under lamplight, I called Lisa to thank her, our voices warm over the line. She said he needed this. Sleep came fitful, dreams of Jacob's face, young and old, woven together. Morning brought a text, his first. "Love you, Mom. Sorry, too." Tears again, but grateful, the confessional weight lifting. The illness, the letter, the hug, they were the pivot from isolation to connection, the wait's end, a new beginning. In the garden days later, pruning roses with hands steadier, I reflected on the reveal, the mutual holding back, the love that endured silence. Emily, no, wait, Jacob's story mirrored my own flaws, but forgiveness freed us. The turning point echoed in small ways, a photo sent of Mia, plans for Mike's grave visit together. Hope bloomed, intimate and sincere, as rain returned softly, washing clean the past. The days after that hug in Jacob's kitchen blurred into a gentle rhythm, like the first rains of spring softening the earth after a long winter. I drove home that evening with the windows down, the cool air rushing in, carrying the scent of wet grass, my hands still tingling from holding him close. The house felt different when I walked through the door, less hollow, the silence broken by the echo of his voice in my mind.
Family. I made tea right away, the kettle whistling softly on the stove, steam rising as I sat at the table, the wooden surface warm under my palms. For the first time in years, regret didn't choke me. It softened, making room for something new. Hope, tentative but real, blooming in the quiet spaces. That first week, we talked every day, short calls at first, his voice a little awkward over the line, like relearning an old song. "Mia wants to meet her grandma," he'd say, and I'd laugh softly, picturing her curls, the way she tugged at his pant leg. Lisa joined sometimes, her warmth bridging any gaps, sharing stories of their life, the toddler tantrums, the backyard barbecues. "He lights up talking about you now," she told me one afternoon, the phone pressed to my ear as rain pattered against the window. Processing the emotions came in waves, the calm sadness of lost years washing over me during those talks, then receding into peace as I forgave myself a little more each time. I'd hang up and wander to the garden, kneeling by the roses, the soil cool and damp, whispering thanks for the door that had finally opened. Forgiveness wasn't a single moment. It unfolded slowly, like petals on those roses, layer by layer. Jacob came to visit the next weekend, driving the 2 hours with Mia in her car seat, Lisa waving from the passenger side. The crunch of tires on the gravel made my heart skip, and I met them at the door, arms open wide. "Grandma," Mia squealed, toddling forward, her small hands sticky from a snack. Jacob hung back a second, eyes soft, then pulled me into a hug, his chin resting on my head. "Miss this place," he murmured, the words sincere. Confessional. We sat in the kitchen, the table spread with sandwiches and fresh lemonade, the afternoon sun slanting through the blinds. Over bites, he shared more, the anger he had carried, how my words that day had made him feel small. "I thought you saw me as a failure," he said quietly, fork pausing. I reached for his hand, my voice steady. "Never, son. I was scared. For you, for us. Forgive an old mom her fears." He nodded, tears glistening but not falling, and in that nod, mutual forgiveness settled between us like dust after a sweep. "I forgive you, Mom, and I'm sorry for running, for the silence." Lisa smiled, bouncing Mia on her knee, the child's laughter lightening the air. We processed the past there, not in shouts but in gentle truths, the way pride had chained us both, the years where he'd built his life wondering if I'd approve. Dad would be proud, I said, glancing at Mike's photo on the mantel, his smile steady. Jacob agreed, voice thick. He taught me to fix things. This is us fixing ours. Acceptance crept in then, quiet and profound, as we cleared the plates, suds bubbling in the sink while Mia helped with the dish towel draped like a cape. The visits became regular, weaving our lives back together thread by thread. One rainy Saturday, Jacob and I worked in the garden, the drops falling soft on our hats as we planted new bulbs. Tulips, his favorite from childhood. "Remember when we did this after Dad left?" he asked, patting the soil, his hands dirty like Mike's used to be. I nodded, kneeling beside him, the earth grounding me. "You were so strong then, helped me through." He looked up, rain streaking his face. "You helped me too, even when I pushed away." We talked about the decade, the jobs he'd taken, the nights he'd read my letters by lamplight, fighting the urge to call. "Pride's a tough thing," he confessed, wiping mud on his jeans. "But losing Dad made me see. Family's worth swallowing it." Peace filled me in that moment, the calm sadness of what we'd missed giving way to gratitude for what we had now. Mia became the bridge, her innocent questions pulling us deeper into healing. During her first overnight, we baked cookies in the kitchen, flour dusting the counters, the oven's warmth chasing the evening chill. "Grandma, why no Grandpa?" she asked, eyes wide as she stirred the dough. Jacob and I exchanged glances, and I knelt to her level, voice soft. "He loved you before you were born. We'll visit him together." Later, tucking her in Jacob's old room, the baseball gloves still on the shelf, he joined me at the door. "She's got your smile," I whispered. He hugged me then, longer than before. "Thanks for this, Mom, for waiting, but mostly for coming back." Forgiveness echoed in his words, acceptance in the way he lingered, the door closing softly behind us as we headed downstairs. Emotional processing continued in the quiet times, alone with my tea in the armchair, the window showing the garden's growth. I journal sometimes, pages filling with reflections, the guilt that had weighed me down, now lighter, transformed into lessons on letting go. Friends at the library noticed, over coffee in the break room, the mug steaming as I shared. "He's back in my life," I'd say, voice warm. "Took 10 years, but worth every one." Sarah hugged me, saying, "You both grew through it." And we had. Jacob more patient as a dad, me more open, trusting his choices without the old nudges. One evening, rain drumming on the roof, he called to talk about work troubles, his voice seeking advice like before. "What do you think, Mom?" I listened first, then offered gently, "Follow your heart, like you taught me." Laughter followed, hopeful and free. Acceptance deepened with shared milestones. We visited Mike's grave together that summer, the grass green underfoot, wildflowers nodding in the breeze. Jacob placed a baseball there, Mia scattering petals. "He'd love this," I said, arm around Jacob, his eyes misty. "Yeah, no more waiting." Back home, over dinner in the kitchen, the smell of roast filling the air, we planned a family trip, simple, to the lake Mike loved. "Healing in motion," Jacob joked, echoing my old words. Gratitude swelled in me for the wife who'd reached out, the granddaughter who'd softened edges, the son who'd forgiven without hesitation. But moments of old sadness lingered, like shadows at dusk, processed in honest talks. One fall afternoon, leaves crunching under our feet on a walk, Jacob admitted, "The silence hurt deep, made me doubt love." I stopped, turning to him, rain starting to mist. "Me too. But it taught me apologies mend, time doesn't erase." He pulled me close, the umbrella forgotten. "We're good now, Mom. Better." Peace wrapped around us, the calm after years of storm as we headed back, Mia skipping ahead with Lisa. As winter approached, our bond solidified, calls turning to visits, the house alive with their presence, the clatter of toys, Jacob's stories by the fire. I'd reflect in the garden's silence, now shared, preening hedges with him on weekends, the clippers snipping like released regrets. "Why did you wait so long?" he asked once, tea steaming between us on the bench. "Fear," I confessed, "of losing you more." He smiled. "We're here. Forgiveness complete, acceptance full, gratitude the steady undercurrent, for the weight that built resilience, for love that endured. Holidays healed too. Thanksgiving with extra chairs, the table groaning under turkey and pies, laughter replacing old echoes. Mia's excitement lit the room, her drawings taped to the fridge. Family, she declared, hugging my legs. Jacob caught my eye across the table, mouthing, "Thank you." In those moments, the emotional journey peaked, from calm sadness through peace to deep gratitude, the resolution a warm hearth after cold nights.
One quiet evening, door closing after they'd gone, I sat with tea, the cup warm in my hands, rain soft outside. The weights why, pride, fear, faded into wisdom, accepted as part of our story. We'd processed it all, forgiven freely, emerging stronger, hopeful. Love, I learned, waits but never gives up. It calls us home. Sitting here now in the soft glow of the kitchen lamp, with the rain whispering against the window like an old friend sharing secrets, I look back on those 10 years and see them not as wasted time, but as the long path that led us home. The house feels full again, not just with Jacob's visits and Mia's giggles echoing down the hall, but with a peace that settles deep, like roots taking hold after a storm. Mike's photo on the mantel watches over us, his smile a quiet approval, and I pour my evening tea, the steam rising warm, grateful for the family that's woven back together, stronger for the threads that frayed. That weight taught me truths I couldn't have learned any other way. The weight of unspoken words, how pride can blind us to the love right in front of our eyes. I thought I was protecting Jacob by holding on to my rightness, but really, I was holding myself back from the joy of mending. Forgiveness, when it came, wasn't a grand gesture. It was in the small things, the hug that lingered, the shared cup of coffee on the porch, Mia's hand in mine as we walked the garden paths. Jacob and I talk about it sometimes, voices low over dinner, the clatter of forks pausing. We both waited, he'll say, eyes meeting mine. But now, no more. And in those words, closure wraps around us, gentle and complete. Life's lessons come wrapped in pain sometimes, don't they? Mine was this: apologies aren't about who was wrong first. They're about choosing love over the hurt, reaching across the silence before it's too late. If you're carrying a regret like I did, a fight with a child, a friend, anyone dear, don't let years steal the chance to say sorry. Swallow the pride, pick up the phone, open the door. Families bend, but they don't break if we meet in the middle. Jacob's shown me that with his patience as a dad, his hands steady on my shoulder during our lake trips, the water lapping calm at the shore. These days, the garden blooms brighter. Tulips nodding in the spring breeze as Jacob and I plant side by side, Mia scattering seeds with chubby fists. The door closes softly after they leave, but it's with promises of soon, not goodbyes. In the quiet evenings, armchair cradling me, tea cooling in my hands, I feel hope, real, heartfelt, for the years ahead. We lost time, but we gained wisdom, and that's a gift worth the wait. Love calls us back, always, if we listen.